Hello, welcome. Hey, Tim. Hi, Alison.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Expecting you more, I believe. Just wait a moment or two. Just get centered and grounded. Let me just send out quick. One more coming. Lydia.
Hey.
Hey, Nancy, how you doing? Send out a quick reminder to the usual suspects, although they're all turning up. We'll get started in a sec. Okay, so let's all take a breath. There might be one or two coming in following. Take a breath, put your feet on the floor, just arriving, present, attend, wherever your attention is right now. Then bring some of your attention to your body. Your body sensations, and then move your attention. Notice that you have the freedom to move your attention around your body, internally, externally. You can change the lens. You can measure for tension or relaxation. You can measure for warmth or coolness. You have many freedoms to be able to change what you perceive by changing how you perceive. And then bring your attention with still your eyes closed to the space around you. It's just what you have to do, or what happens when we talk about expanding your awareness. The field within which you're going to take in data. Notice that you have some control over that. And then include further, so in your visual field, in the sounds, your senses, and your kinestatics. Taste, touch. And notice that wherever you get your experience from, whether it's from the inside, or imagine right now if you're looking far away, all perception is immediate. You might call something far away, like the sun or the stars, but your perception happens immediately. A magician from the previous century called this yoga, this union that's actually always happening. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes. And just notice in a moment or two how it's possible for us to change our state. Okay. All right. So it looks like we're going to be a bit small, couple of small group. Some more people might come in. Actually, is there? Yeah, there's a couple of people without their cameras on. That's okay. Right. So I'm very excited for this month because every month, Tim hasn't been here before. I'll allow you to do a little intro if you want to. Met Tim at the IEC. I'm very excited about this month because every month I pick a topic for this monthly membership, and I say I pick it, but that's not quite how it happens. You know, I kind of think of various different topics, and then one of them kind of lands or resonates. And then almost certainly within 2 or 3 days, I'm looking online, and I haven't said it to anyone. And various teachers and trainers are happen to be doing the same topic for that particular month. So last month was on living stories. The month before was on personal power. And so this one's like, okay, I guess we're doing money and freedom. And as most of you know, I really like to go a bit more into the foundational elements of any of these topics. So they go into, right now, if you read has everyone read some of the intro stuff to do with money and freedom? Nope. Okay, right. So money into security, right? The foundations of needing money in order to live functionally in this world. And some people choose not to do it that way. And that having enough money leads to safety, security, by being able to provide our basic needs. So there is a stepwise function in this. And having more money than that allows us certain freedoms and choices and options as the world currently stands. And there's an interior version of that and an exterior version of that. So there's plenty of people who are super rich that don't feel free at all. I think the example I used was Howard Hughes, whose mental health deteriorated to the point where he barely left his hotel room, even though he's worth over a couple of $1 billion. Right. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to play with different angles and perspectives on freedom, what it means to be free. How would you know? Hi, Melanie. How would you know if you were more free? Right. And then test some of the edges and limits of assumptions we might be making about our own freedom. Right. And with all these trainings that I do, yes, it's nice to have some cognitive information, but for me, the change happens now. So it's what happens in an embodied, lived way within the next couple of hours, 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours, depending on how we go, time we spend together, that there's a tangible shift in your ontology, in your way of being. That means you don't have to do anything going forward in order to, as a practice, right? So that's always the possibility. And then, of course, there are practices that we can incorporate in order to feel more free, be more free. And we'll get to how money fits into that in a moment. All right, so let's just go around because we're a small group. And why are you here? Money and freedom. What brought you here? Who wants to go first? And I guess we're getting more and more people, so keep it relatively tight. Yeah, Melanie, hi.
I'm here because I want to have more fun in all the flow that comes to me. And money is great when it flows, and freedom is great when it flows.
Okay,
that's it.
So more flow. Okay.
More flow.
Okay, thank you. Who else?
I don't know if you remember a couple months ago, Anand, I was really dysregulated when I was doing something with the Australian government and the taxes, and I felt like I was going to screw it all up and lose all this money. And when you said, oh, money and freedom, like the first thing that went into my head was like that they still haven't responded. And I was like, okay, I'm just releasing it. And literally like 5 minutes later, I got an email saying that they're giving me back a lot of money.
Yeah, so
everybody
just
said
to
that
let
the government never does that. Like you can't fight the IRS in Australia and get money back. And yeah, I got
Yeah, just to let you know, Tim, Nancy has increasing witchy powers, and to me, it's not that. It's that the inside world and the outside world start to mirror each other, and so it's not even clear what we would do in the next moment, right? So increasingly, our actions can become harmonized with the inside and the outside, and then you get all these kinds of moments. This is very what you're describing, Nancy, is quite familiar to me, right?
Yeah.
And finding the orientation through reality where the inside and the outside become more and more seamless, right? Through to a non-dual liberation of not dependent on form. The way we find this place, I think, is that all opposites balance until something remains that isn't any opposite or any polarity. One without a second, they call it in the traditions. So very nice. Yes. And it's paradoxical, right? The way to have something is to let it go, right? Which is very different in the physical world. The way to have something is to grab it. So we don't want to prioritize one over the other, because sometimes you have to go, like, no amount of sitting here is going to help those bricks out the front that need moving over to the other side of the garden is going to happen, right? However, understanding that we model the energetic world with our minds, but when we were growing up, we modeled the physical world with our minds, but our minds are not limited to the limits of the physical world and the physics of this physical world, right? Even though that's the first modeling we did. Right? So, anything else, Nancy? Good for you.
And I get to have more freedom. That's why I'm here, because even though I have abundance, sometimes I feel I feel like I don't have enough, or that it'll be taken away. Kind of some of those shadowy things I get to play with.
Yeah, nice. Okay, thank you. You described a couple of the polarities, and then everyone can answer this. How would you know? How would you know if you felt more free?
I wouldn't second guess myself when I'm making decisions, financial decisions, and what I want to purchase or give.
And how would you know if you
and who I want to support?
Exactly. And how would you know if you were more free? See the difference between felt more free and were more free.
Were more free is that I wouldn't have this. I will literally go to a food court and look for the meal that has the free drink included.
Okay. Right.
And I don't want to live that way anymore.
We're gonna come back to this, which is to do with how people state things. So notice it's stated in the not negative bad, but stated in not in positive but in the negative. This wouldn't be the case.
Right. I wouldn't choose like the salad bowl I wanted. I picked the one that came with the free drink.
Okay, got it.
So I get to shift. That's where I shift for me.
Right. And so notice in all of this, give me the description in the world where you are more free, not what's not happening, but what
in the free world, I walk up and the thing is there and I choose all the ingredients I want, and I don't like go, oh, but avocado is $2 extra. Like I just
right. Okay. Internet. All right, we're going to come back to that, because this is what we want to change, this internal subjective experience. And it doesn't mean we're going to go on a spending spree and not have any money in the bank, right? I've seen that before as well. We want to integrate all of the gross, subtle, and causal levels, and the inside and the outside, and mind and matter, right? So this is what we're going to be doing in this session, and maybe beyond. All right, thanks, Nancy. Who else? Dina.
I love what you said already, Anand, about like what it means, that alignment. That to me is why I'm here, really to play more than anything else, like to see what if I'm aligned, what does manifestation look like differently that I'm already experiencing it. So that's sort of my just fun play.
Right. Sounds good. Yeah. Notice how much the normal way to code freedom is as an opposition to something, right? In relationship to not free. Yeah. If we get there today, it'll feel a bit weird because almost all, it's a bit like when people say, I want to feel powerful, right? And it looks like, I keep using this example recently, it looks like the Tony Robbins version of powerful, like, right? But that's power in relationship to feeling powerless, right? Whereas when you have the agency and the ability to go and make a cup of tea, you don't question it. It's very ordinary. You just have the ability to, you have the freedom, right? And this is exactly the same, whether it's making a cup of tea or in your business or reaching out to people, expanding into the world, doing the things you want to do, right? That universally the people say things like, when I got there, it wasn't like how I thought it was going to be. Because the first way around, it was coded as something to overcome, some challenge to get through, some difficulty to surpass, right? But freedom doesn't necessarily feel like, wow, that kind of freedom. Can do. And then actually it's very nice when those kind of liberating moments happen. But I think I'd get exhausted if that was my everyday experience. So, all right, who else? Hi, Jonathan.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll share.
Yeah.
It's quite tangible because we just had our first sales meeting booked today. We're working with an independent agency. And so what I want to achieve at the moment is just check in that I don't slip back into my old habits of grabbing when I'm in this, chasing deals cycle.
Right. So,
and that's money and freedom, because I used to get so caught up in it all.
Yeah. So a sales call to deliver the service that you guys,
The software product.
Yeah. Right. Fantastic. All right. And freedom, what does freedom look like in that situation?
Freedom means that I'm opposing now. Freedom means that I do not grip, push, and drive everything like a lunatic.
What, like previous you
like previous me did, right? Freedom means that I can just say, yeah, it's going to happen, it will be okay. If it doesn't, it's not for them. That's okay.
Right. So notice how it's not quite how you did it, but how freedom gets raised to the level of identity, right? Like, I'm guessing your associations that you're making is lunatic is not someone who's free, right? Right.
Yeah, because I was tied into systems and pipelines.
And we're going to get to that. So the whole idea of attachment from Buddhism and what liberation is, and the paradox of attachment, feeling like we might lose something. And weirdly, the more you lose, sometimes the freer you get. I'm cleaning up my house at the moment, tidying up, all the stuff that I brought out of storage. And it used to feel like holding on to stuff felt comforting, right? And now it feels like letting go of stuff feels liberating, right? So these are foundational elements of Buddhism, of impermanence, of letting go of attachments, of no self. Like when there isn't a sense of making all this stuff personal, there's a sense of freedom and flow, right? So this is what we're going to be going into today. All right, who else? Who's next? Chop. Yes, Tina.
Basically, I guess what attracted me to the program, especially this topic, was just to have more flow with, what I have to offer and money. Because I feel like I may still have an upper limit problem where I
love it. Stop there. This is universal. Everyone puts their upper limit problem like over their head. It's really interesting. And then almost everyone, you say, what do you want to earn next year? And they go $200,000, let's say, or $300,000, whatever the number is, right? And the number that they want, they put like just out of reach, like at the edge of where their hand can reach. There's a metaphorical internal description of, and almost everyone, when you say, what about the amount you're making right now, today, they put it wherever their sense of self is. They'll put it either like here or at the level of their eyes or at the level of their belly, right? It's kind of interesting that we're representing the world to ourselves, including the limits. Right. So I just noticed you kind of went like this. Right. An upper limit. I know exactly where it is. You just described it. Your internal representation represented outside. All right.
Yeah.
Go on.
So just get rid of some of those blocks that are sabotaging my behavior when it comes to trying to, market myself. So.
Yep. Okay. So I just want to point this out. So there's a behavior that you're looking to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which would be classified as freedom or more free. And then I want to get rid of the blocks. So you're presenting that there are blocks in your meaning making, and that there's a solution, which is if I get rid of the blocks, then I'll be free to do the behaviors that mean I can move forward in my business, right? There's lots of causal modeling going on there, lots of internal representations of meaning going on, none of which might be true, right? Some of it might be true. But the idea is that you already know, if you know that there's a block there, you know how you would feel if you didn't feel that. Otherwise, how would you know to make the representation, that feeling? Yeah. All right. So we'll get to that. All right. Who else? Who's next? Yeah. Hey, Casey.
Hi there.
Hey, Joe. Welcome.
I'm good. Thanks for having me. So initially I wrote in the chat, I'd like to release any charges from beliefs of not having it or having either, or thinking it's outside of me, and desire to opening up and receiving more. And then when I thought about it, I actually have a ton of freedom and making more than I have before. And so there's something that's like, oh, that's interesting that is actually what the truth is that's happening. And yet on the other, what it actually feels like is scarcity and fear, versus like stable, secure, and that there's so much around me.
But I'm really glad you said that, and I'm really glad you represented. So in the stage development, this is pluralist, right? The idea that we can have multiple perceptions, and the fact that you kind of go, oh, hang on a minute, I have got a lot of freedoms and a lot of choices. So notice that these are different states of consciousness. So in pluralist and above in stage development, this is we recognize we're a self of selves. Right. And I don't know if this is true or not, but probably because I have a physics background, that my theory is that every frame of meaning we're making, every lens or perspective is impacting, is trying to kind of animate the body-mind system as if it's the only one, right? So one part of me feels this and one part of me feels like that, pulling in different directions. So they don't know about each other to some degree. Mm. And overall experience is a superposition, as it's called in physics, of all of those happening at the same time. So it is kind of interesting sometimes when we liberate a time capsule, Barbara Brennan calls it, of something that's been acting autonomously, like that part of you that's, oh, there's not enough, that scarcity. If I were to ask you how old is it, it's almost certainly not,
Oh yeah, it's very young. Very, very young.
It's going to be very young, right? So what we're going to do today is look at resolving from our adult brain and our consciousness as we are now, the holding pattern of these polarities, I'm safe or not safe, those kinds of things, right? Which we cannot do until we reach a certain level of development, right? Thank you, Casey. Illuminating into the field various distinctions, which is what everyone's doing here, which is what's happening in this intro, right? Okay, two more. Quick intro.
Yeah, I want more of all that's happening. So, it just feels like I'm just in this quantum expansion of everything that wasn't possible before I'm just stepping into. It's all possible and it's happening. And so, yeah, just learning more about, defining that, and in the planning stage, letting go of what I learned from my parents and their beliefs about money and like what really is possible, for me, and what does that look like? Me doing my thing, my way, and having an affluent life. And yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Now, in all of this, it's really useful to know about homeostasis, right? That we reach upper thresholds of what we're comfortable with, right? And we can talk about it being parents and this, that, and the other, right? There's another way to look at it, is that when you get to the edge of some meaning making, a feeling comes up, right? That's it. Right? Some contraction, some tension, some bodily indication that lets us know that we ought to stop.
Right.
Yeah. And then if you think about a physical metaphor for this, going to the gym, right? Day one, you don't want to go and try and deadlift. I don't know how many, what do people deadlift? 100 kilograms, 120
Yeah,
kilograms.
I've been deadlifting a little more than I probably need to.
Yeah, exactly, right. Whereas Stephen Kotler talks about this, which is the optimum progression for kind of exponential growth. He says, I mean, this is a meaningless concept, but it's 4% more challenge than support every day, right? Now, it's kind of weird because we have the feeling we're doing something if we have stress and we overcome it, right? It feels like we did a lot, right? Right. Whereas when you're in flow, a friend of mine, I think I've told many of you guys, she still holds the 100-meter sprint record in Aberdeen, but I think it was under 16. So anyway, this is like 35 years ago. And she said, I was going faster than everyone else and it felt like I was doing nothing. Right. So we want to start to orient towards internal absence of resistance. The most extreme version of absence of resistance is in Zen, is dropped off body mind, where everything drops away and there's just the underlying oneness of all of existence that isn't changing, right? So it's kind of contrary to how we've modeled this physical world, that freedom in other realms, which is what we're going to go into, seem different, right? So the most obvious one in freedom in the physical is having more, right? More stuff, more food, more money, more objects. In the subtle realm, freedom is flow. The more ease, the more grace, the more movement, the reduction of resistance. And you might say in the causal realm, it's the ability to create. Because if you want to create, if you really go into what money is, and we'll have a little discussion about that today, then it's really getting that it's made up, right? That